Ring in the past, so I'll just look back on it and be like, yep, I made that a long time ago, back in 2025. So anyway, this is kind of like an add-on to my other video about Dave Cullen talking about how we're all, as humans, going to be obsolete and express concerns about is just like sitting around doing nothing. And like I had said before, like I understand that view. It's not misunderstandable. It's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty straightforward view. Like if I'm not needed, then what's the point? And I get that. I understand that view, but it's not really necessary to look at life like that. The biggest point that I forgot to mention in the video is I believe that life is about playing, not working. And the reason that I believe that is because when we get into a mindset of playing for just playing's sake, where you don't have a goal in mind, that's when we shine. That's when we do the best. That's when we feel the best too, when we lose ourselves in the moment. And yeah, we can lose ourselves in the moment in a survival instinct kind of a way because we're terror stricken. And that's one way of doing it, sure, but that's not the best way. The best way of getting into the moment is like dancing or singing or some performative art is the best. Now, some people can do it with painting too. Bob Ross has his little. There's almost like a rhythm to it. You can follow it. There's an energy to it, and they'll fall into their work if they're really good at it. Then they'll fall into their work and they'll play. And I heard it reminds me of this quote that I heard before about real geniuses when working and playing are indiscernible. And I think that's really true. Like if somebody loses themselves in their work and they really believe like this is for a good cause, this is for something that's really important, then yeah, they will feel purposeful in that, but not because of the effect, but because of the cause behind it that matters. The principle is what's driving things or should drive things. When it does, when we're more about the cause of playing or cause of doing or cause of principle, first principles, that's when we lose ourselves in the moment. That's when we really feel alive. That's when things really, magic happens. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than that. Like when you go to a concert or something, or I don't know, when you have sex, when you party, when you see a really hot girl or something like that. There's moments where you'll lose yourself in it. That always happens when you're playing, when you don't have to do it. That's why I thought it was so bizarre that he said that the only way that you could feel purposeful is if you were forced to do something ostensibly through survival and nature, not enslavement. But it's the same kind of a concept if you think about it. It's almost like a jigsaw way of looking at the world. It's like you can't really feel unless you're almost unfeeling. You can't really know unless you're totally confused. You can't really feel alive unless you're almost dead. That kind of a mentality. And like I said, I understand it, but it's just so bizarre. It's like, should I burn my shoes and walk around barefoot and like eat berries and cook squirrels and stuff because that's what I'm built to do? I don't feel like that would be purposeful for me. Now, maybe there would be someone else that it would fulfill their purpose. Maybe it would be something that everyone should do for a few months and just realize like, wow, that's a thing. And then build on that. And, that way it's never lost. Maybe people should go out into the woods for, 3 months and live off the land and see if they can survive off their own farming, just to make sure they can still do it, just to make sure they still have a pair. Yeah, okay, sure, I can agree with that. But then to extend that and say, no, I mean, I don't think he ever said this, but it was implied. So maybe I'm misconstruing what he said, but it sounded to me like he implied that all humans would just have no purpose if they didn't have a need for them to satisfy. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It's about the want, not the need. When I feel really into my work, when I really feel on fire, it's because I want it. I don't need it, I want it. When I need something, it's desperate and it's fear driven or hate driven, but it's not fulfilling. It's not something that really deeply, profoundly touches my soul. So I believe that, like Alan Watts said, everything in reality is essentially playful. And if you search for an ultimate meaning or an ultimate purpose in life that is absolute, that is universal, that applies to all things, all the time, everywhere, forever, whatever that is, it should be a mystery. And if it weren't, if there were such a thing as one absolute meaning for all beings, then we'd be shackled to that perfection. We'd be forced to live in accordance with that. And there would be no choices. It would reduce everything to an obligation of fulfilling that absolute moral code. And that's the problem with it. It's so intolerant of anything but itself that anything but itself is considered evil or, lazy or something like that. And I'm not saying that he said this. I'm just saying that I'm exploring the environment that I found that idea in. And it may not be his environment. It's the environment I found when I went to where he was, or where I went to where I thought he was, I guess I should say, because I don't know. Maybe he already knows all this and I'm just being an idiot. But I do remember him saying that he felt like if people just played all the time, that it'd be childish. I don't find that to be true. I think that it's more fulfilling to play all the time, because that's when you find out who you really are. When you're disposed towards always trying to get survival completely done, you're constantly scraping at trying to get to be continue to be a living person. I find that to be circular, because you're just living for your own life. You're you're surviving for the sake of survival. You're in the moment because you have to be, but not because you want to be. And so I feel the exact opposite way that I think feels from what he said. I feel the exact opposite. I feel like I'm imprisoned by lack of technology, and that I feel angry about being put in my place as like, I'm not allowed to, I'm not allowed. I feel like I can't really have an extension of myself into technology without feeling like someone's saying that I've lost some part of my autonomy, which I get. Like every trade-off, right? Everything that you own ends up owning you. Tyler Durden quote. I get that. I understand it, but it's not entirely accurate. Like, just because I don't need a percolator to make really good coffee, and just because I don't really need coffee at all, doesn't mean that I shouldn't drink it. Like, if we extend that idea, that philosophy of we only find purpose in need and not in want, but just only in need. If we find purpose only in need, then why do I drink soda? Why do I drink coffee? Why do I smoke cigarettes or pot? Or why do I get drunk sometimes? All of those things should be cut out. And then the only thing that we should ever be doing is work all the time. I don't think that would be fulfilling. I think that's exactly the reason why we're trying to create this singularity as a species, is because we want to be free from having to survive. We want the freedom to be able to choose what we want and not be forced by what we need. And to sell the point of home about playing, it's like when I sing as a hobby. I'm not like a professional or a good singer, but when I do sing, I feel like I do the best when I don't care who's listening, or I'm not doing it for any reason. I'm not doing it to try to impress a friend or even to try to make their day better. I'm not singing for them. I'm singing for, not even for myself, but for the music itself, for the joy of just going with it, with the music. And, people can do that with dancing is really popular. I don't like dancing, but some people do. And that's when they feel that, or rock climbing or surfing or something. It's like you get this connection with everything, and you don't feel like you're in any particular environment. You don't feel like I'm in the club, I'm in my home, I'm in a car. You just feel like you exist, but you don't have like a location. And the time also disappears. You don't notice that it's been 5 minutes or 5 hours. You don't know, you don't care. It doesn't cross your mind because you're in the moment. And that happens when you want something, when you're doing something that you want to do. not something that you have to do. Period. I'm going to have my period at the end of my sentence.